Hello, everyone. How are you all? Come on, wrapping up here. All right, MRMW, good afternoon. My name is Corinne Dodge. I am Senior Account Director at Bandwatch. I am thrilled to be here with all of you brilliant people. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Bandwatch, we are a social intelligence platform, and we enable organizations and brands like yourselves to engage and understand your consumers at a very deep, intimate level. What we do is we bring the voice of your customers to the forefront of decision making. This enables you to really make informed decisions about the direction of the strategy of your organizations. You guys are in for a treat today, as I have one of my lovely clients here today. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my day job. I have the pleasure of working with wonderful clients, one who is here, and I work with the largest clients of Bandwatch, and what we do is, sorry, a little nervous here. I work with the largest clients in order to enable them to make the best decisions about their organizations. You're in for a treat today, because today we're going on a little bit of a journey, so buckle up, because you all are, #so blessed to be taking flight with consumer intelligence, and I have the lovely pilot here, Ryan McFerrin, who is a general manager and the head of social media for Atlanta's own Delta Airlines.
Great, thanks, Corinne. You guys are gonna have to keep count of airline puns.
Right.
We've already dropped 5 airline puns, so there'll be many throughout. No, I'm very excited to be here to chat with you all today. Like Corinne mentioned, I lead our social media team at Delta and our social center of excellence. Among our roles of producing all of the content that hits the feeds of our customers around the world is producing social intelligence and insights that we distribute throughout our enterprise to really drive business decisions and really make us more informed around the customer. So it's a practice that we've had for a number of years. We're going to tell you a little bit about where we've been, what we're doing today within that space. We really see that going.
So for you all, consumer intelligence, what it means to Bandwatch, and the reason why we're so thrilled to partner with Delta Airlines, it really enables organizations like Delta to adapt to the fast-changing world that, coming out of the pandemic here, we're connecting decision makers to strategic insights, and these are derived from real-time online data, customer data, and marketing intelligence. And Ryan's gonna bring that to life for you here.
These are the days we love, blue skies, right? A few clouds, we fly above them, not a problem in sight. Delta has always been a customer-centric organization. Customers at the heart of everything that we do, and we are a very data-literate company, really measuring every touch point. You see it when you board a Delta flight. We measure down to the second how on time we are of pushing that flight back, in every different interaction that you have along the way. Historically, though, there's been a bit of a gap in our understanding, certainly as social media proliferated, of the conversation around the brand online. And we really saw an opportunity going back now 7 years or so, 2016, 2015, to really harness that information to really augment what we were doing on the more traditional side, which had very deep roots. So we went and we're going to tell you a little bit of a history story of how we partnered and ultimately did a very wide search of technology partners in the space of social listening intelligence and came to partner with Bandwatch. Little did we know that the day that we signed that agreement, we would have the largest need for that intelligence that we had faced in 15 years. So go back to 2016. Some of you, those of you who are in Atlanta, hopefully none of you were actually traveling that day, you might remember this was national news. And for a data-heavy conference here, you'll feel the pain of, we had a fire in our data center, our main data center here in Atlanta. It knocked out our systems and our ability to send off flights globally. So we had to ground the airline for almost a full 24 hours. That on its surface sounds, that's inconvenient. It's massive. In the operations of 5,000 flights a day, 500,000 customers touching Delta planes, the ripple effect of that took days, if not weeks, to really normalize from. But what we had actually had happen within the 24 hours prior to that happening was signing our deal with Bandwatch and enabling this new capability of understanding what was happening in real time from our customers and putting their voice in the hands of our decision makers, both on the operational side and on the commercial side of the business. So within moments of this happening, our teams were able to start generating real-time reports at a speed that we really hadn't been able to see in the past, giving the understanding of certainly things from a brand reputation standpoint, but even down to the very operational side. Where did we see breakdowns of customers congregating that we needed to go triage, and we're able to, in real time, put some changes out into the operation. So in that moment, we went from 0 to 500 in a true takeoff fashion and put social intelligence on the map at Delta. And since then, the hunger has only grown. I think in our space, we all know no good report goes unpunished of we put one thing out that serves a need. It comes with 4 more asks, and that's been the case of our operation at Delta over the last couple of years. So I'll start with a little bit of sort of that foundation where we grew from there. And this is really what we've established as a true always-on practice of daily leveraging social intelligence to augment decision-making around the enterprise. Now, we sit within the marketing organization, but we serve the entire enterprise. With that, some of the tried and true use cases are more marketing-centric, measuring our brand reputation on a moment's notice. So the first thing I look at when I come into the office are some boards that are heads-up dashboards on our wall that show conversation around the airline, shows our sentiment down to the last hour, shows trending conversations, shows those of our competitors as well. And those often can guide where our teams need to focus that day. We use that intelligence to inform our content strategy and optimize that in real time. We use it to send out to the operation and say, hey, we're seeing more spiking around a conversation at San Francisco. What's going on there? And they're able to leverage that from really serving as the canary in the coal mine of the airline before we see something that from an issues management standpoint might present a brand risk. Crisis management is kind of the table stakes within our industry, and being able to be prepared and on the front end of any type of incident. And within this space, we've enabled our systems to alert and automate on a host of scenarios where in the past, we were more flat-footed and you were waiting for that velocity to catch a point where we really were able to see higher volume, to where now we're able to triage an incident and help the customer so much further upstream than where we might have been historically. One of my favorite things that we do is we really use our social intelligence to inform our product development roadmap. And within this, it's certainly pre-deployment and understanding the customer, their needs, their wants, but then certainly on the back end as we get something out into market. You're looking at a picture here of the new concourse that we just opened at LaGuardia, that's Terminal C. For anybody who has been to LaGuardia over the past, call it 20 years, that doesn't look like LaGuardia. That's what $4 billion of airport investment buys you. So when we put $4 billion into an airport, we want to make sure that we understand how that's working for our customers. And within that, we have a lot that we do, of traditional research. We are a company that lives and dies by NPS. We have a post-travel survey. Many of you have hopefully received and filled out after your flight. But what we don't have with that is sometimes the speed of insight and some of the unprompted depth or perspective that social intelligence affords us. So as we see something that rolls out like a new terminal, we have teams that are building filters, dashboards, and automated rules to put that into the hands of decision makers in real time so that they can understand where there might be optimizations that are needed. And then the last one I'll point to here is on really getting outside of just travel conversation. For anybody who hasn't seen these on board, Tip Top Cocktails, it's my favorite new beverage that we have. They've been on our aircraft for a couple of years now, Atlanta-based brand as well. And as our onboard services team has become one of the unexpected stakeholders and customers of Internal Insights, we've had a lot of fun getting beyond travel. They'll come to us and say, what are the trends that we're seeing around snacks, around beverages? And our team's able to go out and say, all right, well, we see a movement around pre-mixed canned cocktails. There's certainly plenty of research within the beverage space for us to tap into, but within social, we're able to layer that on and understand and contextualize that conversation of Delta customers and really make sure that we're going after a strategy and product that's going to be met with demand and excitement on board. So I encourage you, if you haven't tried one yet, the margarita is phenomenal on board, so order one on your next flight.
All right, Ryan, so we have to cover the pandemic. I mean, come on, it's 2022. Wait, tell me a little bit about what happened in 2020 for Delta.
Yeah, so, I mean, clearly, we've all been through it over the last couple of years, and no secret, the pandemic has impacted the travel and the airline industry dramatically. But in many cases, while something we certainly wish we never had to face, it presented an opportunity for social intelligence to shine within the walls of Delta. And the reason behind that is, we really went from a point where we had 500,000 approaching the summer, we would get 600,000 customers on board each day, to at its low point, 4% of that customer base touching a Delta aircraft. And for an organization where we are often relying on that post-travel data, the survey and traditional methods, that dried up overnight. And we found ourselves looking to social for those cues and the feedback from customers in a way that really we hadn't had to rely solely on in the past. So within that, really monitoring customer perceptions and concerns around the travel experience became first and foremost for us, to make sure that we were delivering on and messaging around those preparations, the accommodations that we were taking on the safety and health side to make flight accessible for those who needed to fly amid the most difficult parts of the pandemic. And within that, it really allowed us to focus in on those messages that we knew mattered most, and to rise above what was really a really difficult space of noise that was driven outside of our industry, and to really come as a thought leader on top of that. The other thing is really looking at recovery and also tracking customer perceptions and preferences throughout. So these reports that we were developing really allowed us to start impacting things like our network planning and where we were actually investing more heavily on our flights and our schedule as we looked at the back half of 2020. We saw on the early side from social intelligence that then was validated through other research, this shift for more outdoor travel, for the interest in getting to these places that are a bit more remote. It's not necessarily rocket science, but we're able to validate that and provide more confidence in the decision making, and really allowed us to stay one step ahead of those customer demands. And I threw this in there as just something, and along the way too, because it's sometimes easy to look at social intelligence of only finding the negative. Our team uses this to power positive every single day within our organization. And yes, we look at things at a very aggregate level, but we also look at things at a one-to-one level and open up opportunities to really enhance and drive loyalty with our customers. It's one of my favorite stories and a highlight out of the pandemic. Obviously, Delta was a tough name to have during the peak of the Delta variant. And we saw this tweet come through of a little girl's mother who shared, Delta, I've got my own Delta, her name, who is getting bullied at school about not loving her name. So we were able to find that, provide her with a care package, and really that actually drove national media. The amount of the earned media value on that eclipsed some of our paid media campaigns that we were running at the time. So we see as certainly the intelligence side of this is first and foremost, but then finding ways to automate and leverage this intelligence even down to the individual customer level really provides a ton of opportunity. So where are we going, and where we've been since there, is really taking off of starting to leverage our data alongside other data sources, really marrying and enriching traditional data with social intelligence, informing our audience strategy, understanding cultural context of audiences around the globe in a more rich and real-time way. I think what we can get from social in that unprompted space just really enhances our understanding of the communities that we serve. The the layering of that alongside traditional focus groups just makes us that much more informed as we put together our investments in media, our investments in our content strategy, and even down to our product development. And finally, this idea that we've talked about some today is just the expanding of automation in the space. How quickly we are able to now act on these insights is making all the difference for our customers. So within our tools, being able to put those filters in place and rules so that we get data and intelligence into the hands, contextualized with the story that surrounds it, at a moment's notice rather than days, or the week after, is just making us that much more actionable.
So to recap, 2016, you're on the tarmac, wheels are up, we're now cruising at an altitude, more puns for you all, cruising at altitude, 30,000 insights a year, right, give or take?
Sure.
Where do you go from here? How do you get to that next level?
Yeah, I think it marries well with a lot of what we've heard today as well. I feel like we have done the reactive side well, and we are capturing content and conversation intelligence in real time, and then in shifting more into the proactive space. But where we really want to go is predictive. We see a real opportunity as we build the case of these stories over time. We start to understand, right, this thing that we're experiencing feels a lot like this last thing that we saw. So we're able to start scenario planning and understanding the impact of decisions on a more micro level. And really that allows us to be more informed, more nimble, and more confident in our decision making. So with that, this is really a virtuous circle that we have, not just in social intelligence. Delta is an incredibly listening-driven organization. We want to listen, react, listen again, and optimize. And we're just going to continue to do that. And our hope is by continuing to do this, from a social intelligence standpoint and keeping up with the changes of the platforms and understanding the hundreds of thousands of mentions around the brand each week, that we're able to start understanding where we expect customer value long-term to go. We are opening doors with stakeholders internally who never thought about social in the past. Corporate strategy, our finance team, and they want to understand if we pull this lever, what might we be able to expect from a bookings volume standpoint? What might we even be able to understand from an overall share value? So those are some of the things that we're starting to explore about truly moving into a more predictive space.
Well, this is a Ryan McFerrin quote, by the way. As his account manager, I hear this all the time. Social intelligence really keeps the consumer at the forefront of every single decision made at Delta. So the moral of the story is fly Delta and leave your feedback and tell them what you want them to do. And they are listening.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the heart of who we are as a brand. Our tagline is keep climbing. That it comes from a space of constant improvement and constant listening. So with that, putting the consumer at each decision and enriching that understanding has allowed us, I think, to really be even that much more in tune with our customers over the past years, and we're really just excited about where this space is taking us. We're coming up on 100 years of flying, and what the next 100 years look like after that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. Happy to answer any questions you guys may have. I see my MC queen over here.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm like, yeah, I fly Delta next week, actually. If you want to just give me a drink voucher or something, just throwing that out there since we're shamelessly plugging. Any questions? We have time for one. Awesome.
Hi, that was great. Thanks. I'm Ben from Rival Technology. I'm just curious, with the amount of sort of noise in the system with social, how do you guys make sure that the feedback there or the signals that you're reacting to are actually customers and not just people piling on?
Yeah, it's a great question. No more was that noise seen than over the last 18 months or so. Certainly before the pandemic, isolating conversation to true Delta conversation alone was a challenge. And then layering on top of that, we have conversations we get pulled into as a global brand on a daily basis, and that what we try to do is make sure that we're putting that filter to understand, are these the true flying customers, or is this more of, at times, what can be the social mob who's providing that conversation? I think one of the things we look at is audience panels that we're able to leverage within the tool against the true conversation to isolate and filter So that helps us have more confidence. There's also a lot that we look at as far as network effects to understand that clustering of conversation. So we'll see, like interests, and it's one of my favorite displays within the tool, is it allows us to start understanding sort of tribes. So we might start seeing, is this a conversation that's driven by people who are interested in travel or interested in small business, or is this more a conversation that is being driven, has less of a network effect, it's more isolated by a group that may be outside of our core day-to-day flying customer? But it's always a challenge there.